São Paulo Futebol Clube, simply known as São Paulo, is a professional football club, based in São Paulo, Brazil. The club plays in the Paulista Ípawlu, as well as the Brasileirão, being one of the only 5 clubs to have never been relegated, along with Santos, Flamengo, Internacional and Cruzeiro. As for international titles, São Paulo is the most successful team from Brazil, with 12 international titles. It is also one of the most successful South American clubs in terms of overall titles, having won 21 state titles, 6 Brasileirão titles, 3 Copa Libertadores titles, 1 Copa Sudamericana, 1 Supercopa Sudamericana, 1 Copa CONMEBOL, 2 Recopa Sudamericanas, 2 Intercontinental Cups and 1 FIFA Club World Cup. Founded in 1935, São Paulo was an inaugural member of the Clube dos 13 group of Brazil's leading football clubs. The club's most consistent spell of success came in the 1990s, under coach Tele Santana, when it won 3 state titles, 1 national championship, 2 Copa Libertadores, 2 Recopa Sudamericanas, 2 Intercontinental Cups, 1 Supercopa Sudamericana, 1 Copa CONMEBOL, 1 Copa Masters CONMEBOL. São Paulo is the 3rd best supported club in Brazil, with over 17 million supporters. The team's traditional home kit is a white shirt with 2 horizontal stripes, white shorts and white socks. Its home ground is the 67,052-seater Morumbi football stadium in São Paulo, where it has played since 1947. The stadium was the venue for the Copa Libertadores finals of 1992. 1993, 1994, 2000, 2003, 2005 and 2006. São Paulo is the 2nd richest Brazilian football club in terms of revenue, with an annual revenue of $111.9 million, and the 2nd nation's most valuable club, worth over $353.4 million in 2011. History, 1931 Euro 1934. Origins of the club, São Paulo da Floresta. São Paulo FC was founded in January 25, 1930 by 60 former officials, players, members and friends of the football clubs CA Paulistão and AA das Palmeiras of São Paulo. Paulistão, founded in 1900 and thus one of the oldest clubs in town and 11 times champions of São Paulo, abandoned football because of the professionalization of the sport. Palmeiras, founded in 1902 and 3 times champions of São Paulo, intended after the end of the season 1929 to set up a professional team, but failed to do so. Paulistão brought into the Union star players like Arthur Friedenreich and Arakan Patuska. Palmeiras' contribution was the Stadium Estadio da Floresta, generally known as Calcara da Floresta. The jerseys of the new club were derived from the ones of Palmeiras, which were white and sported a black ring across the chest. To the black and white of Palmeiras was added the red and white of Paulistão, thus, the ring became red, white and black. The team, coached by former Paulistão star player Rubens Soares, played its first match on March 16, 1930 when it drew 0-0 against CA Ipiranga. The side became in the same year runner-up of the state championship and won it in 1931, losing only 1 match of 26 and scoring 92 goals in the process. In the following 3 years São Paulo FC was again runner-up in the championship. In 1933 football in São Paulo became officially professional in the friendly match on March 12, 1933 which São Paulo won 5-1 against Santos FC is considered the opener of that era. Internal arguments and turmoil led to financial problems. The club merged with the Clube de Regatas Tietá, another sports club from the town, and the football department was disbanded on May 14, 1935. 1935 Euro 1939, the rebirth of São Paulo FC, just after the merger with Tietá, the founders and refounders created the Grêmio Tricolor, which formed Clube Atlético São Paulo, on June 4, 1935, and, finally, São Paulo Futebol Clube on December 16 of the same year. The new club's first game was against Portuguese Santista on January 25, 1936. The match was almost cancelled, owing to the city's anniversary, but Porfirio da Paz, the football director and composer of the club's anthem, obtained permission from the Board of Education office for the game to continue. Another merger occurred in 1938, this time with Clube Atlético Estudantes Paulista, from the neighborhood of Mocuibcar, and the club finished as runners-up in the Campeonato Paulista. 1940 Euro 1950, the Steamroller. In 1940, when the Estadio do Pacaembu was inaugurated, a new era began in São Paulo state football. São Paulo Futebol Clube finished as runners-up once again in the Campeonato Paulista in 1941, and a year later the club paid 200 contos de copyrights to acquire Leonidas da Silva from Flamengo. During this period, São Paulo also acquired the Argentinian Interclube Sastre and Brazilians Noronha, José copyright Carlos Bauer, Ziza copyright Procure ๊pawlu, Luiz Inu, Rui and Teixeira. With these new additions, Tricolor became known as the Steamroller, winning the Paulista Championship 5 times, in 1943, 1945, 1946, 1948 and 1949. The club sold its Canindé copyright training ground to Portuguese to raise money for their new stadium the Estadio do Morumbi, for which construction began in 1952. 1951 Euro 1957, the dry spell, the run of success of the 1940s, came to an end in the early 1950s, and the club only won 2 state championships in the new decade, in 1953 and 1957. The latter championship was won with the help of the 35-year-old Brazilian international Sozinho and Hungarian manager bar copyright La Gutman. In the years that followed, the club struggled to compete with the rise of Pelé copyright and his club, Santos. With the construction of the Morumbi Stadium still ongoing, São Paulo entered its longest period without a title in its history, which was to last 13 years. 1958 Euro 1969, just the stadium, since São Paulo's budget planning was focused on the Morumbi Stadium construction rather than the signing of new players. Few expensive players were bought during the 1960s, although the club did acquire Brazilian internationals Roberto Dias and Urandir. In 1960, the Morumbi Stadium was inaugurated, and named after the late Carceiro Pompeu de Toledo, the club's chairman during most of the stadium construction. One of the few happy moments for the fans during this period was the 1963 Paulista Championship 4 Euro 1 victory against Pelé copyright S. Santos. 1970 Euro 1979, Campeonato Brasileiro. In 1970, the Morumbi Stadium was finally completed and the club purchased GAR copyright RSON from Botafogo, Uruguayan midfielder Pedro Rocha from P+or- and striker Toninho Guerreiro from Santos. The club was managed by Ziza copyright Moreira, who was the manager of Brazil at the World Cup in 1954, and won the Paulista Championship after beating Guarani 2 Euro 1 and the Campinas a week before the end of the competition. In 1971, the club beat Palmeiras 1 Euro 0, with a goal from Toninho Guerreiro, in the final to capture another state title. That year saw the inaugural Campeonato Brasileiro, with the club finishing as runners-up to Atla copyright Tico Mineiro, managed by Telo Santana. In the following years, São Paulo and Palmeiras gradually overtook Pelé copyright S. Santos and Corinthians as the dominant club sides in São Paulo state. In 1972, Palmeiras won the state championship title, only 1 point ahead of São Paulo, and the following year the clubs finished in the same positions in the Brazilian Championship. In 1974, São Paulo took part in the Copa Libertadores, losing in the final to Independiente in a replay. In 1975, former goalkeeper José copyright Poi took over as manager, and São Paulo won the Paulista Championship after defeating Portuguese in a penalty shootout. Valdir Pérez, Chica Pondo, Sergin Chulapa and Czar Copyright RGIO were the club's most influential players when São Paulo finally secured the Brazilian championship for the first time in 1977 following a penalty shootout victory over Atlético Mineiro at the Mineirão. However, they failed to win another trophy until they reclaimed the Paulista Championship in 1980. The 1980s, tricolor decade. In the 1980s, São Paulo won 4 Paulista and 1 Brazilian titles, helped by the impressive central defensive pair of Oscar and Dario Freire. In 1980 and 1981, the club won the Paulista Championship in successive seasons for the first time since the 1940s. In 1985, the head coach Sileno introduced to the world the Menudos of Morumbi, a team that included Silas, Marwan Cortella and Sidney, and the club once again won the Paulista Championship. The main striker was Kaká, a centre-forward who also played for Brazil in the 1986 FIFA World Cup. The midfield featured Volker Paundo, brought in from Italian club AS Roma, and nicknamed the King of Rome. In 1986, manager Pepe led the club to its second Brazilian championship title, defeating Guarani in a penalty shootout. In 1987, Dario Freire left the club, but in that year the Menudos team won its last title, another Paulista title. The so-called tricolor decade ended with the 1989 Paulista Championship title and a second-place finish in the Brazilian Championship, when São Paulo lost to Vasco da Gama in the final match. 1990 Euro 1995, the Tele era. In 1990, after a poor start to the campaign in Championship Paulista, Tele Santana was hired as the club's coach, and São Paulo went on to finish runners-up in the Brazilian Championship. In 1991, Tele Santana wins first title on São Paulo winning the Paulista Championship. In 1991, São Paulo won the Brazilian Championship after beating Carlos Alberto Pereira's Bragantino, and the club began a period of consistent achievement both nationally and internationally. The following year they reached the Copa Libertadores final, where they faced Newell's Old Boys of Argentina. São Paulo lost the first leg 1-0, but reversed the scoreline in the second leg in Brazil, and then won the competition in the penalty shootout to take the title for the first time. In the same year, in Tokyo the club won its first Intercontinental Cup, beating Johan Cruyff's FC Barcelona team 2-1. After returning to Brazil, the club beat Palmeiras 2-1 to win its 18th state championship title. In 1993, São Paulo retained the Copa Libertadores, beating Universidade Católica of Chile in the final. After the competition, influential midfielder Raul left the club, but São Paulo won the Intercontinental Cup again, beating Fabio Capello's AC Milan 3-2. Marwan Cortella scored the winning goal in the 86th minute of the match, from an assist by Tonino Cerezo. In 1994, the club reached the final of the Copa Libertadores for the third year in a row, and faced Argentina's VAR copyright Les Zarosfield. On this occasion they lost a penalty shootout to the Argentine side at the Morumbi Stadium. But by the end of this year, São Paulo won the Copa CONMEBOL, defeating ± of Uruguay in the final. 1996 Euro 2004, post-teletraumatic shock. At the beginning of 1996, owing to health issues, Tele Santana left São Paulo, ending the club's golden era. Between 1995 and 2004, the club had 14 managers. Among the most notable titles during those 10 years were the 2000 Paulista Championship and the club's first Rio São Paulo tournament title in 2001. Roga copyright Rio Ceni, Julio Baptista, Luis Fabiano and Kaká were the club's stars. Raul briefly returned to the club between 1998 and 2000, and with him, the club won the Paulista Championship twice, in 1998 and 2000, after beating Corinthians and Santos, respectively. In 2004 São Paulo were back in the Copa Libertadores and reached the semi-finals before being eliminated by underdogs once Caldas, from Colombia. At the end of that year, a Pamil Merson ๊pawlu was hired as the club's coach. In 2003, São Paulo made a deal with Spanish amateur side Sant'Angelo Club Aficionado that resulted in the Spanish club changing its name to São Paulo Madrid. 2005, present. In 2005, with ๊pawlu as the club's manager, São Paulo won the Paulista Championship. However, ๊pawlu would soon leave the club, and Paulo Autuori, the former manager of Peru's national team, was hired to replace him. São Paulo won the Libertadores Cup for the third time, beating another Brazilian team, Atlético Paranaense in the final. Atlético switched the first leg of the final to Estadio Beira-Rio in Porto Alegre, their own ground not having sufficient capacity for a final, and the match ended in a 1-1 draw. In the second leg, at the Morumbi, São Paulo won 4-0 to become the first Brazilian club to win 3 Copa Libertadores titles. In December 2005, São Paulo competed in the FIFA Club World Championship in Japan. After beating Saudi Arabia's Al Ittihad 3-2, they faced the European champions Liverpool in the final. A 1-0 victory over the English team gave São Paulo its third Intercontinental title. The single goal was scored by Mineiro in the first half of the match. Other players in that year's squad included centre-back Diego Lugano, full-back Sisanu and forward Amoruso. After the success of the 2005 season, Paulo Autuori left the team to coach Kashima Antlers in the J-League. Muricy Ramalho was signed up as the new coach, having led Internacional to the runners-up position in the 2005 Brazilian Championship. In his first tournament as a manager, Ramalho reached second place in the Paulista Championship, losing to Santos by 1 point. São Paulo reached the final of the 2006 Copa Libertadores, but lost 4-3 on aggregate to Brazilian rivals Internacional. However, they went on to win their 4th Campeonato Brasileiro trophy, becoming the first team to become national champions in the new league system format. After being eliminated from the Copa Libertadores in 2007, São Paulo won the Brazilian title for the second year in a row, 15 points ahead of second-placed Santos. They won the title for the third season running in 2008 season, overturning an 11-point deficit behind Grêmio, to become the first team win the national title 6 times. Manager Muricy Ramalho was also the first manager to win 3 Brazilian titles in a row with the same team. Muricy Ramalho was fired from the manager post following a defeat in the home leg of the 2009 Copa Libertadores to Cruzeiro, São Paulo's 4th consecutive Libertadores Cup elimination to another Brazilian. Ricardo Gomes took over as manager. In 2010 São Paulo lost again against Internacional in the 2010 Libertadores Cup, ending Ricardo Gomes's spell as manager. In 2011 the club signed Rivaldo, and Luis Fabiano was bought for €7.6 million, the most expensive player in the history of São Paulo, and goalkeeper Roger Copyright Rio Ceni scored his 100th career goal, against Corinthians. In a research made by Brazilian sports site Globoesporte.com, São Paulo, during 8 years, among 2003 and 2011, were the second club from country to earn more money negotiating than players. Tricolor Paulista received a $287 million. The first one is Sport Club Internacional, but earned a $289 million. For 2013 season, São Paulo, after 7 years wearing kits produced by Reebok, signed with Brazilian brand Penalty. The contract is valid until 2015 and the club will earn a $35 million per year. This contract is the second most valuable of kit supplies from Brazil, just as exceeded by the sign between Flamengo and Adidas, in a value of $38 million. Colors and badge: when Paulistano and Palmeiras merged, their colors were inherited by São Paulo. The colors match those of São Paulo's state flag, and also represent the 3 main races that lived in Brazil during that period: the Native Americans, the Europeans and the Africans. The club's home strip is a white shirt, with 2 horizontal stripes at chest level, the upper one red and the lower one black, and with a badge in the center of the chest. The shorts and socks are all white. The away strip consists of a red shirt with red, black and white vertical stripes, black shorts and socks. The badge consists of a shield with a black rectangle in the upper section bearing the initials SPFC in white. Below the rectangle is a red, white and black triangle. The badge also has 5 stars, 2 gold and 3 red ones. The gold ones denote Adma Ferreira da Silva's world and Olympic records, and the red ones represents the 3 world championships won by São Paulo. Kit manufacturers and shirt sponsors, Stadium. São Paulo Stadium is officially named Estadio Carceiro Pompa de Toledo and commonly known by the nickname Estadio do Morumbi. It was inaugurated in 1960, with a maximum sitting capacity of 120,000 people, but now its maximum capacity is only 80,938 seats. Its record attendance for a football match, set in 1977, is 146,082. The club also owns 2 training grounds, one named Centro de Treinamento Frederico Antonio Germano Menzin, nicknamed Centro de Treinamento da Barra Funda, which is used mostly by the professional team. The other is the Centro de Forma Picavolta de Atletas President Laudo Natal, nicknamed Centro de Treinamento de Coxa, which is used by the youth teams. Players, current squad. As of July 7, 2014, note. Flags indicate national team as defined under FIFA eligibility rules. Players may hold more than one non-FIFA nationality. Out on loan, note, flags indicate national team as defined under FIFA eligibility rules. Players may hold more than one non-FIFA nationality. Personnel, current technical staff. Club rivalries, São Paulo vs Palmeiras. This fixture is nicknamed the Chogremi, and has seen 103 wins by São Paulo, 99 wins by Palmeiras and 99 draws. São Paulo vs Santos. Also known as San São Paulo, this fixture was first played in 1936. Since then, São Paulo have won it 114 times, Santos 92, and there have been 62 draws. São Paulo vs Corinthians. The game between these clubs is also known as Majestoso, a name coined by Thomas Mazzoni. The first Majestoso occurred on May 25, 1930. The fixture has seen 79 wins for São Paulo, 88 wins for Corinthians and 84 draws. Supporters, São Paulo's average attendances per year in Brazilian Championship, São Paulo's average attendances per year in Copa Libertadores, Honors, International, World Champion, Intercontinental Cup, 1992, 1993 and FIFA Club World Cup, 2005, Copa Libertadores, 1992, 1993, 2005, Copa Sudamericana, 2012, Copa CONMEBOL, 1994, Recopa Sudamericanas, 1993, 1994, Supercopa Libertadores, 1993. Copa Masters CONMEBOL, 1996, National, Campeonato Brasileiro XR Copyright RIA, 1977, 1986, 1991. 2006, 2007, 2008, Torneio São Paulo, 2001, Campeonato Paulista, 1931, 1943, 1945, 1946, 1948, 1949, 1953, 1957, 1970, 1971, 1975, 1980, 1981, 1985, 1987, 1989, 1991, 1992, 1998, 2000, 2005, Supercampeonato Paulista, 2002, references. External links, official website.